Support comes from Seattle Rep, presenting a bold new season of powerful stories, including the world premiere musical Freak the Mighty, the satire Eureka Day, and the award-winning classic Amadeus. Subscriptions to the 2026-27 season include free exchanges and discounts at local businesses. Visit seattlerep.org.
On the latest Sound Politics, Katie Wilson made some big promises when she ran for Seattle mayor.
She's more than 100 days in office, and her first big self-imposed deadline is coming up. Can she set up 500 shelter beds in time for the World Cup?
Deadlines. Who cares about them, right?
I mean, journalists definitely, and voters maybe?
Also, why some of Wilson's supporters are not happy with her moves out of the gate. All of that on Sound Politics, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Meet Me Here, KUOW's Arts and Culture podcast. I am Dyer Oxley. I cover pop culture around here. You know, once upon a time, we had guidebooks to help us navigate our travels near and far. Maybe a travel show like Rick Steves'. Heck, even asking the person at the front desk of your hotel for travel advice. That is how we got things done on the road. But these days, have you found yourself turning to social media for such travel tips and inspiration? Because I have. You know, whether it was driving the Oregon coast or jetting off to Thailand, I scrolled through what others posted in these places. I was looking at the towns, the restaurants, hikes, any little-known corner of interest. And honestly, I do this for the local stuff too, for here, where I live. You know, like the Instagram account Two Seattle Girls, who talk about things to do in the Seattle region.
Seattle's most luxurious spa is hiding in plain sight downtown, and we finally went to check it out. Penelope and the beauty bar inside the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. It was a girls' night straight from work. We checked into our separate...
You know, I'm not alone. Expedia Group did a study, it was just last year, of the people who use its travel services. 61% use social media to plan their trips. That's roughly double what it was in 2022. And 73% of these travelers said influencers, influenced their travel plans. Okay, but here's the thing. There's another side to all this, because when you actually go on a trip, you might find what I found is that more people are making content. They're doing their own photo shoots and they're making videos, all with social media on the mind. It feels embarrassing, yet it was helpful. It feels annoying, but, then again, on some level, you do it too. I might actually do it just a little. It seems there are good actors, there are bad actors in all this, so let's talk about this. We're bringing in travel expert Rick Steves to weigh in, but first, I want to talk with those two Seattle girls that I mentioned earlier. Emma Ueda is a fifth-generation Seattleite.
Yes.
And Shirley Pung is an East Coast transplant from Boston.
Yes, Boston.
Okay. And you put those two perspectives together, and you get two Seattle girls.
Yes.
Okay, so what is your origin story? Where exactly did this whole two Seattle girls start?
We met on my birthday.
Yes, on her 21st birthday.
Yes, on my 21st birthday, 7 years ago now, at an internship in Seattle at a tech company.
Shirley moved back to Boston for a year to finish up, schooling, and I went back to UW to finish up schooling, and then we came back full time in a kind of post-pandemic period. And Shirley moved over from Boston in the time when things were reopening up, but it was still pretty bleak in Seattle. So we moved in together because we're just besties and we worked together, and we had so much in our camera roll, and both of us Shirley's a OG YouTube vlogger.
Oh, yes. I grew up on YouTube. I definitely spent probably 90% of my time watching YouTube instead of TV. And so I've always been super interested and had the urge to create content, but I could never really get myself to do it, especially alone. I think once we were going out, exploring all these new spots, yes, it was second nature to post content, but then we really... I don't know what changed. We're let's just post it. We were always talking about it for months. We were we have so much content in our camera roll. Why don't we just post it? It won't hurt. Mm-hmm. And then I think one day we went on another 5-10 mile walk around the city where we just talked about life. And then right there we filmed a really quick piece of content. And then we just posted it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've found, especially with an account like yours, but just in general, I'm going someplace, I find myself scrolling to kind of make plans for the trip. I'm going to the Oregon coast. I'm going to Victoria, BC. And I find that, Two Seattle Girls, that's the kind of account too, because then I can go through there and be like, they went to this restaurant. They went to this, they went to Sasquatch Mountain. They go to these places. Do you find that people are consuming your content with that aim for either travel tips? Do you know if there's any out-of-towners tuning in?
We get a lot of Instagram DMs with people telling us they're visiting Seattle for the weekend. They would love just like a list of recs that they should prioritize going to if they're only here for like 2 days.
Really?
Or they're here for 1 day in Seattle. They're like, what are the must-go spots? Where are the spots I must hit in this 1 day that I'm in Seattle?
Where are the spots you must hit on 1 day in Seattle?
Oh my
on the spot.
gosh, tough question. I mean, it's Pike Place. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Pike Place Market.
Pike's Place Market?
Pikes Market. Pike Place Market. If it's a sunny day, just loving the Ballard breweries. You can get the little passport and go around. It really just depends on what the weather is a big factor. If it's really sunny out, you can go to Gasworks Park. That's the big one everybody loves. But specific spots, I do love Espresso Vivace and where else? I mean, restaurants. I mean, it depends on your budget for the day. We love Communion in Central District. That's a favorite.
Yes. Where have we been?
Oh, Maddie's Bake Shop. That's a newer pop-up that started out of a farmer's market. She's, become majorly famous in Seattle for her amazing croissants and marketing. It's great.
My answer would be the Rubber Chicken Museum in Wallingford.
Oh.
I mentioned Sasquatch Mountain. Speaking of attractions to go to, this is a new attraction on the Seattle waterfront.
Yes.
A lot of times, influencers, content creators, I notice it's their videos are as if they're like on the bare hills in The Sound of Music. There's nobody around. This gets to something that I've wanted to talk about. People have always taken travel photos, right? That is not new. But we evolve, things change, and now it feels like even regular tourists aren't taking photos so much as they are like, I must create content. Everybody wants to get a perfect shot where they are the star. And I can complain about this. I have complained about this, but let's be totally honest here. I'm the one clicking. I'm the one scrolling. We're all part of this on some level. So how should we be thinking about the ways we're creating and consuming this edited version of our lives? With that in mind, I called up our locally based travel guide, Rick Steves. Now, he focuses on European travel, and he does have some social media channels of his own. I laid out for him the phenomenon that I just laid out for you, and I'm going to play you part of my conversation with him, Emma, and Shirley. On the other side of this, I want to get your reactions.
All right.
It's very clear in Europe. A lot of people are seeing Europe through, their viewfinder. A lot of people are choosing their destinations according to where do they want to show off where they've been on Instagram. And a lot of people are going to a restaurant here or there because a lot of people rave about it on different crowdsourcing sites and social media sites. So there's, when I started my work, there was not enough information. And now there's really too much information. And one of the skills of being a good traveler is to curate all of the information that's out there. But I'm not enamored with where do I stand to get a selfie with the Matterhorn behind me. And that's becoming a driving force in people's travel these days.
I like the way you put it with not traveling through a viewfinder. That's another phrase I picked up from you. And in selfie sticks, but it also feels like we used to take travel photos. Now we're quote unquote making content. I guess that maybe.
Well, are you a traveler or you are a content maker? When you say that?
Exactly.
If you're a content maker, we'll make content. When I'm doing a TV show, I'm not traveling. I'm making a TV show about this place based on my travel experience. But I would think people, when they're travelers, want to be in the moment. They want to hear the music, not take a photograph to show off that they should be hearing it with their friends back home who are not traveling.
See, that kind of hits a nail on the head for me, because if you are there just to make video, just to take photo shoots, different poses. I've even seen people do a little bit of a costume change. Are you really there? Like, are you really at the temple? Are you really on the trail?
The vacation is being there with your camera rolling and putting stuff up on social. That's fun. I do it. I do it professionally. I got a crew. Who am I to say you shouldn't film it? I don't. Everything I do, it seems like I got a cameraman saying, "Do it again," and get out of the shadow. But if you're a traveler, I get to go there every year. If you're a traveler, be in the moment. When we were in Venice, we were trying to film lovers on gondolas. Nobody's loving on the gondolas. They're taking pictures of them looking like they're loving, but they're not into it. Be in the moment. When you go to a concert, when I'm a tour guide, I've booked fado singers to come and as we're having our dessert to give us a fado concert. It's beautiful, Fisherman's Blues in Lisbon. Everybody's climbing over each other to get a picture. So finally I cling my glass and I say, you guys, out of respect to the musicians and so that you can actually learn and enjoy fado music, let's say this next piece is for photographs and shoot the hell out of it. And then put your cameras away and really have an experience. And this is the way to do it. So everybody goes, thank you, Rick. That's a great idea. They get their photograph, click that off, put their cameras away, and then they have that memorable magic moment. Because if you can fall in love with the gaze of a 65-year-old fisherman widow. It's so beautiful. It's so soulful. It's so drilling. It's so filled with heritage. But if all you're doing is worrying about capturing it on film for your friends, you're missing the experience, and that's really sad to me.
Well, let me ask you with our last minute we have here, because you mentioned that, yes, you do filming yourself. I don't think you're using an iPhone for that, but you do some filming yourself. There is a Rick Steves Europe Instagram account. You have your own personal social media accounts, and makes me wonder if you yourself, do you have personal rules of the road when it comes to this stuff? Do you have, hey, this is the way I operate when it comes to whether it's making my content or stuff for my own personal social media?
I want to capture the magic of being over there. I want to inspire people with my experience. Meeting people, that's what carbonates your travels. Having experiences, that's the mark of a good traveler. Checking things off of a bucket list, it doesn't impress me. How many countries have you been in? That don't impress me much. How many preconceptions have you reconsidered? What have you learned from hanging out with people who find different truths to be self-evident and God-given? That's the mark of a good traveler. I just love the thought that in our travels, we can actually enjoy experiences we never thought were half possible, and we can do it in 2026 in famous places just by knowing how to avoid the crowds. You got to think carefully about avoiding crowds, and it's certainly not to go online and think what is trending. That's not how you avoid crowds. So there's two kinds of travelers these days.
Excellent. Well, I think that's our time with you there. I want to thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you, Dyer, and maybe I'll see you standing in a line somewhere in Europe, and maybe I'll see you all alone.
Hopefully not.
Let's make a point that we'll find our own little taverna. And we'll have a glass of ouzo, not because everybody's drinking it, but because the locals are drinking it as the sun goes down. All right, Dyer, thank you. Happy travels.
Thank you, sir. That was Rick Steves partially quoting Shania Twain. Kids, ask your parents what a viewfinder is, by the way.
What is a viewfinder?
Yeah, what is a viewfinder?
I don't even know what a viewfinder is.
I knew it. We're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to have Emma and Shirley and their hot takes on Rick Steves.
Support comes from Seattle Rep, presenting a bold new season of powerful stories, including the world premiere musical Freak the Mighty, the satire Eureka Day, and the award-winning classic Amadeus. Subscriptions to the 2026-27 season include free exchanges and discounts at local businesses. Visit seattlerep.org.
Soundside brings you beyond the headlines with news and conversation rooted in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Libby Dankman. Every week I sit down with local journalists for Soundside's Front Page, where we give you a shortcut to understanding the latest news and cultural moments and how they affect us here in the Puget Sound region. It's all here on Soundside, on the radio or streaming Monday through Thursday at noon and 8 p.m. on KUOW, on the KUOW app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What did you make of Rick Steves' argument that it seems like most of the time he wasn't saying don't use your phones, but he was also saying put down your phones?
I guess first off, huge fan of Rick Steves, being from the Seattle area. I've been familiar with his work and watched it like Europe through the back door. I've been to Venice. I totally see what he was referencing, even in the past 10 years, before all the short form content blew up. I remember seeing people just being obsessed with taking that perfect picture. I have to say, I think the two of us relate to what he was saying in the fact that I think we've kind of primed ourselves as content capturers, content creators, just like by second nature. It's kind of a blurry line of like if we're traveling or if we're planning to shoot something for our Instagram, TikTok. And back to what you were asking before about like our overall goal, like it started off as a fun, just our own photography, own video taking content, but we really, I think, are driven by the community that we've been able to build through this social media. And we've built that community by creating these itineraries and or just opinion pieces on places in Seattle.
Well, can I ask you something? Because
Yes.
Off mic before we were recording, you mentioned something about using terms like influencer and content creator.
Yes.
And there's a little bit of an insight into that because when I was telling folks about putting this episode together, they kept saying influencer. And I had in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't think that's exactly it. And you were telling me, well, we wouldn't really use the term influencer.
Yeah, I feel like influencer almost has like a negative connotation these days, maybe stemming from like all the New York City and like all the huge LA influencers that are just
getting paid thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for brands that don't feel authentically related to what they are actually all about.
I think that's the synthetic I mentioned earlier. Have phones changed your relationship to travel, or has this always just been travel?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, I've always had like a digital camera on me and I've always loved taking photos. And I don't know. I think it's definitely changed. Like, obviously, when I was younger, social media didn't really exist. So I would take photos for fun, just for my own memories, put them in like a Facebook album. But now when we do travel, the intention is to just go travel with friends, create new experiences. But because we have like a social media account, it's always top of mind that I should be capturing content at every place we go in order to get it posted online later on.
Yeah, and I think that's a different experience, like, because we have this social media account versus the daily person, daily traveler.
Yeah.
We were chatting earlier, like, just the two of us, about how a lot of our friends aren't content creators, and they take some pictures, but they put the phone down and they kind of experience things.
Yeah, it's funny, like traveling with my best friend. She is not a social media gal at all. She'll take one photo at every stop. Meanwhile, I'll probably take like 5-10 minutes, force her to take photos of me, just so I can capture like the perfect piece of content for our social medias. But I think we even did that. Like I even did that before we had our own account. Like even during like high school, college, I just loved taking pictures and taking pictures and videos wherever I went, and having like my mom or like a sibling take those photos of me. And so I think it's always been super
ingrained
in my
thought
process to take like photos wherever I go.
Can I ask you something about, you guys brought up something with our producer, Matt Martin, before the show, and I got a kick out of it. It was, you were watching a movie.
Yes.
It was called Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion. This is back from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
What was your observations about this film?
Well, yeah.
Millennials, by the way, trigger warning. You might hurt your feelings a little bit here. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the two of us, it was just a couple of weeks ago, we were watching the movie and there was a scene where they went to a club and I don't know, just we turned to each other and we were thinking, we've actually never experienced as adults, you know, just in a time when you can go to a bar, you're of age, in a time when no one has a phone and no one can use a security blanket of going on their phone to avoid weird social interactions or taking video of people dancing. So it's just being in the moment, and you just have to stand with the awkwardness and make conversation with people.
So what do?
I'm a suit salesman.
Would you excuse me? I cut my foot before and my shoe is filling up with blood.
Yeah, and that's something we're not used to. Like whenever we're out in public, I feel like if there's like an awkward moment, I don't know who to look at or what to do alone. I always just turn to my phone as a safety security blanket.
Yes.
And so it was crazy watching that movie where like, wow, they're really living in the moment. They just kind of have to deal with uncomfortableness.
Yes.
And then also, I think it's also crazy that like we just went to Coachella and without our phones, I don't know how we'd even be able to find friends. Like that's like one thing that's super shocking to me, even coming from the movie, is that they'd be out in the club and with their friends. And I'm like, what do you do if your friend just disappears? Like, how do you find them later? Do you have like a meetup spot? Do you have like a phone number or like somewhere to something
leave
to
your information with the bartender?
Yeah, exactly. We're like, what do you
Like-
do if you can't find a friend, or like, how do you even call a ride home? Like now we use Ubers, but what did they do back then where they're just like taxis everywhere? I'm assuming not in the suburbs. There's no taxis. Like
phones.
it's just like so
Cash on you.
Yeah. Like, do you just ask a random person on the street to drive you home? I don't know. I feel like I'm just like,
don't do that.
okay.
How did you feel about that when you made that observation watching that movie?
I think there is kind of a sense of, is jealousy the right word? I mean, there is, or like that feeling of like being present, and I don't know. People have also coined 2026 the year of the analog, because people are so sick of being addicted to their phones and doom scrolling, and people have bought those little bricks to like cut down on their screen time, because I think human beings aren't meant to be glued to something the entire day, their whole lives, and that's what phones are kind of built, and apps are built to be addictive in a sense. And people have kind of forgotten how to socialize, especially in a post-pandemic period. And I think forcing yourself to get out of your comfort zone to talk to people, like even in the elevator, I go into the elevator, I go on my phone. If there's one other person, we're both on our phones, and there's just kind of this like head nod and kind of like, we're not gonna talk, which is, that can happen without a phone too, but it's just like you just get sucked in because you don't want to talk because it's comfortable. But
I just feel like that's a Seattleite nature. I mean,
That's
phone
true.
or no phone, that's just ingrained in me.
Yeah.
yes,
I mean,
Seattle freeze.
I think from my perspective, I really wish we were able to experience a time like that from Romeo and Michelle, just because it looked like, obviously, just from the movie, everyone was just truly living their best life. There was no worry about how you were perceived on social media. So I think that is such a big part of it. Now it's like on my personal social media, I'm like, what should I post so I'm not like obviously flexing, or like, I don't know if nostalgia is like the best word, but I do wish we were able to live in like a moment like that where phones didn't exist and we were purely able to just like be out with friends.
Yes.
And just enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
I am curious, when you yourselves are out there and you're creating content. I know you say a lot of times it's just, this is what we're out and about doing, but do you have any like personal rules of the road when you're filming or taking photos?
I think the two of us are, not that we sometimes, like, especially with our friends, we can get embarrassed when they're like, oh, okay, take like phone eats first. Like that's the big phrase that all
Phone eats first?
You haven't heard that?
No.
Okay. It's even,
I don't have friends though, so.
Even non-influencers say that. Like, just, when you go to a new restaurant and they have a beautiful platter of, your eggs Benedict and your French toast and all of that.
Yeah.
It's like,
It looks so pretty.
phone eats first.
Yeah, but you got to get
Delicious.
the content in.
But yeah, I think like we can get embarrassed in that sense, but like I think because we have this other side of the feeling of like, the community and or just our creative outlet part of it, I think we just kind of go along with it. And I think as the years have gone by, I mean, Shirley can speak to this, but we've kind of expedited our content creation moment and like kind of learned how to do like the quick take and
Yeah, definitely.
actually enjoy the moment afterwards.
The
That sounds
experience
like
we're
what
having.
Rick Steve said too, to some degree. He didn't say, phone eats first.
I think we've learned how to like manage our time a little bit better when we go do these experiences, when we go to a new restaurant. Like now, before I think we used to like have our phones out the whole entire time to take content and make sure we don't miss anything. But now that it's been 4 or 5 years, I think we've like understood how to time manage better. So we'll go there, order all the food, capture our content very quickly and like efficiently, and then put our phones down to the best of our abilities and try to actually eat and like have conversations with our friends, because we don't want our content, or like we don't want taking content to like intrude.
There's something you brought up. I want to ask about it, because we've brought up the term community a few times. I think that's the thing that I think folks, if you're looking like outside in, that maybe you don't really understand that there are communities that spring up around this. You have your own community that has sprung up around Two Seattle Girls,
yes,
right? And there are communities that spring up around a lot of content creators. I know a lot of them, they're friends of mine, and that's like their full-time jobs. Mm-hmm. I don't think people understand that there are these communities. There is a social interaction, and it's not exactly this far off, detached thing as people like to think. Can you comment on that a little bit?
I guess, yeah, we built a Discord back in the post-pandemic. I mean, like right when we started, because that was one of the videos that actually did really well, was us just chatting to the camera about how Seattle seemed to be kind of recovering from the COVID pandemic. And just, I don't know, I think it's just like we kind of are the face of like not them for the face of the community, but like a common person for all of them to reference and or account that they can get their recommendations from, and then they can make their own plans and things around things that we've suggested. Yeah. And I think that's been really meaningful to us, because we've had people come up and say, I met my best friend through your Discord.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a friend that met his like long-term girlfriend through our Discord at one of our events like 4 or 5 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
And so every time we see him, I feel like there's like more progression in their relationship, and it's like so sweet to see that we were there from the beginning.
Yeah, it's just from us, posting our selfie content in a new sushi joint in Seattle.
I'm like, we better be invited to the wedding.
Yeah,
at this point.
When kids ask their parents what a viewfinder is, parents, you can ask your kids what Discord is. It's an online messaging platform, basically.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. It's like an honor.
Super fun.
We gotta thank Rick Steves for offering his thoughts on all of this, as well as Emma and Shirley with Two Seattle Girls. Check them out over on Instagram, TikTok. I believe they're on Threads as well. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Meet Me Here is by KUOW, a proud member of the NPR network. It is produced by Kyle Norris, Brandy Fullwood, and Matt Martin. It's hosted by Jeannie Yandel, Katie Campbell, and myself, Dyer Oxley. Our editor is Phyllis Fletcher. Now, if you like Meet Me Here, please take the time to rate and review us. It really does help get the word out about the show. Podcasts like Meet Me Here, they're only possible because of your financial support, and you can help us make all of these local shows that you rely on over at kuow.org/meet. And thanks for listening.
Support comes from Seattle Rep, presenting a bold new season of powerful stories, including the world premiere musical Freak the Mighty, the satire Eureka Day, and the award-winning classic Amadeus. Subscriptions to the 2026-27 season include free exchanges and discounts at local businesses. Visit seattlerep.org.
What's your go-to spot to eat in the Seattle area? The place you would miss if it closed tomorrow. I'm Brady Fullwood, host of Seattle Eats, and on the latest episode, we find out what a certain seafood chef has been ordering at his go-to spot for 25 years, and the dishes he thinks you should order when you go there. Listen to Seattle Eats on the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.